What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. We made a few more moves in free agency, a re-sign in addition to two more new faces within the building. And you see the Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji vision starting to come to fruition as it relates to the free agency approach. We wanted guys coming off of that, looking to get that first secondary contract, guys that are in that 24 to 27-ish range, and guys that feel like they have a area of expertise, right, or a skill set that puts them among one of the better players in their position groups. And we'll discuss a little bit further on that subject here, right? Ultimately, I think it's a bit of a refreshing approach. I was pretty big on when Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas opted to go extremely young, for example. I think it's just a better competitive field to foster that fierce competition, right? When you look at veterans, when you look at the wear and tear, especially when you have more guys that are hitting that 30 mark and older, these are guys that don't want to go at it 110% in the entire all-season practice and then expect to also play all 17 games and a significant amount of snaps. So the younger you go, the better you have a chance to see if you can find a hidden gem here. But let's talk about the re-signing. Kene Nwangu, which was the kick returner we picked up last year from the Vikings. He was a guy I was really hyped about us receiving because not only was he a excellent return player, and as we saw, he had that 99-yard touchdown against the Seahawks. He was also a guy that I was pretty high on in terms of having that home run ability, speed, and being able to fill in spot duty and pick up major chunk yardage whenever whenever the holes were there for that to happen, right? But ended up breaking his hand the week after he had the huge play. But I think plainly you can see this guy could end up being one of the most elite returners in the league for the duration of his career, based on what he's been able to accomplish so far. So glad to see him return in the building. When you look at the need for wide receiver, we've been needing somebody in this building for the longest, and the person that stepped in, or the very next person that we signed, theoretically could be wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, just based off us expecting to move on from Allen Lazard, and then the uncomfortable position we're in when it comes to Xavier Gipson and Malachi Corley being your next top options. And we opted to go with, again, another young guy here, a guy that has championship pedigree from his time with the Bucks, has really been able to kind of fine-tune what may help him stand out or at least last in the NFL in Sean McVay's offense. Tyler Johnson, 5th round pick in 2020 draft, has about 49 games under his belt. The career totals aren't great, but X Factor did a really good job laying out a lot of what will really be the upside play with him here, right? But 76 catches, 828 yards, and 4 touchdowns over his career. This is the boundary threat that we've been looking for. 12 of his 17 contested targets over his career have been caught, giving him a 70.6 mark, which is huge, right? You think about your Mike Evans and name any boundary receiver, right? Your Mike Williams, etc. When you want to talk about skewing that 50-50 ball in your favor, Tyler Johnson is a guy that gives you that ability. Only has 4 career drops across those 76 plus targets that he would have had, which is also great. Definitely below the league average. And he's actually a pretty solid yak guy for somebody that brings that bigger stature, right? That 6'1", 6'2", 200 plus build. Above the league average in making guys miss, specifically going into last year as well, which was one of his best years in that regard. The things that make him a guy that hasn't been heavily trusted: he's not great at separating. The reason why he has to be an elite contested catch guy is because he's going to struggle to give you those open throwing windows more often than not. And he's really not a factor in the deep game. I believe he's only caught 3 balls of 20 plus yards on only 6 targets, something along those lines, right? But you can easily see this a guy This guy being one that if he continues the yards after catch ability and being able to make 2-3 guys miss, on every single play. Not that I'm saying we need that every time, but if he continues that ability and he ends up making the most of additional opportunities here, again, I would look at him right now as wide receiver 2, in my opinion, even though he'll probably drop down to 4 or 5. This is a guy that could be a tremendous gem for us. And then Kris Boyd, he is the special teams gunner ace coming over from the Texans. He was the guy that pushed his coach in the playoffs, I believe, against the Chiefs after picking up an unsportsmanlike penalty. Kind of water under the bridge, right? I think when it comes to the physical contact, I look at that a little bit more egregious as anything else. But I mean, we've had our fair share of stuff, right? The Quentin Williams shouting match in Aaron White Cotton's face, Aaron Rodgers and the Robert Saleh hug that wasn't, if you will. So it is what it is. That's not the biggest thing in the world. But you look at him as your Justin Hardy light, your Charles Irving contingency, potentially, if he can't recapture form. Generally is going to be on special teams more often than not. I'd be surprised if he makes it into the cornerback rotation. But 77% of his special team snaps on the Texans last year resulted in him leading the Texans with 9 solo tackles on special teams. So this is a guy that definitely has a solid puncher's chance of being able to go out here and carve himself out a role. I will say, unless he does end up being like a Justin Hardy, I don't relish the idea of having somebody that's going to be strictly kind of special teams and not necessarily ever see the field on defense. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they look at him and decide maybe they can find a specific role or specific package that they like to throw him in. But this is a guy that you look strictly at for special teams. So I would say that's the focus, at least on this day, of some of the players they've looked to acquire and re-sign. But let me know what you guys think. What do you really feel about the approach at large? Because, I mean, when you really break it down and look at a lot of these signings that we've had so far, I would argue there's not a ton of guys that you objectively look at and say, clearly this was the better player that fit our situation, that fit what we want to do within our cap restraints. We absolutely missed here, right? So I like the approach. Again, love it. A lot of the players that have been brought in at least make sense for one reason or another. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.